Hello, today we're in Enzo's backyard and we're going to cook a couple of steaks for you. We're going to use two different methods, and for the most part I want to bring you a very simple concept on cooking steaks is that there's only three things to know about cooking a steak, and that's the quality of meat, the sear, and the internal temperature. Today we've sourced our meat from a local ranch called Evola. They're in Turlock, California, and I have their information at the back of my back of my video. And they have a subscription service, which I think if you're interested in meat, that you'll thoroughly enjoy. They're also a provider of Wagyu California beef. And so we're going to get started, and we're going to do two different methods. We're going to use the stovetop and oven for one steak, and we're going to do the Weber for the second steak. And again, there's only three things to know about cooking a steak: quality of meat, sear, and the internal temperature. So let's get started. On the stovetop, we're going to use a cast iron skillet. We're going to sear it on one side. We're going to turn it over, put it in the oven for 425 degrees for, let's just say, 6 minutes, until the internal temperature is cooked to about 125 degrees. Then we're going to take it out, and we'll add a little butter on top, add a little class, and if you'd like to hop up the butter a little bit, you can use our All Things Mediterranean and make a compound butter, and to add to the top. You can ladle the butter over the top, and you're going to end up with something that's really special. So today we're going to do, like I said, two steaks on the stovetop and in the oven and on the Weber. And I've got the Weber going, and so as soon as I'm done with this, we'll be ready to move on to the next steak. So bear with me while I start and prepare the food. We've seasoned this with Enzo's Cattlemen's Choice. It's become very popular, and if you're a fan of McCormick's Montreal seasoning or Kinder's salt, pepper, and garlic, I'll challenge you that if you try our steak seasoning, you won't go back to any other seasoning. It has become a tremendous hit. So let's get started. Our meat is about 1.25 inches, nice cuts of meat, and I seasoned them 2 hours ago. They're at room temperature. So let's start. So we want to put a nice sear on the steak before we turn it over and put it in the oven. While it's in the oven, it's going to put the sear on the opposite side. The sear comes up quickly, so stay on top of your meat so you don't do something that you'll regret in the end. So when you're doing any of this grilling, you've got to pay attention to what's in front of you and how you're cooking it. I'd like to show you the sear if I can. In the oven. I'm going to leave the heat on top of the stove, so when I take it out, I'm going to add a little butter, and then I'll tenderize it a little bit with the butter, and hopefully we'll come out with that perfect steak. It's simple. I enjoy cooking on the range because I feel that I've got more control over the meat that I'm cooking, other than cooking out on the Weber or an open grill. On the ranch we had an open grill, a Santa Margarita type grill that we used, and you just had to stay on top of it. Now the thickness of the meat is going to be very important. Thinner the meat, the quicker it's going to cook, and you're going to overcook your meat. So I always suggest that if you're going to do a steak, do it right. Do it at 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches, and stay on top of it until you get your internal temperature to 125 degrees. I'm going to take just a minute and look after my Weber. I've taken the meat out of the oven, We're at our temperature at 125 degrees. I'm going to add a little butter to our steak. Let's pretend like we're at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, or we're having a steak at Luger's in New York, or Delmonico, and we're going to we'll add a little juice to the top. Saute it a little bit. Now, if you'd like to use an infused butter, that would even give it another little dimension. So let's see what we have. How about this? Perfect cooked steak. Your guests and your family are going to really enjoy this. Quality of meat, sear, internal temperature. And Weber usually cooks at about 350 degrees. And so when you're using any source like this, you don't want to cook the meat after you've seared it directly on the flame. Unless you have a small piece of meat, it's going to cook really quick, and you're going to be unhappy with the result. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the sear on the side that we have our coals, and then after we seared it, we're going to turn it over, sear it again, and move it off to the side and finish cooking to 135 degrees or 125 degrees. And then we'll let it rest for 10 minutes. So here we go. Again, as I've always stated before, is the quality of the meat is a major ingredient into the success of the quality of meat that you're going to put out to your family and friends. My seasonings are in most of the butcher shops from Merced to Sacramento along the 99 corridor. We have about 20 stores that our seasonings are in, and we have the locations of these stores on our website, enzoseasonings.com. Here we've got a beautiful sear, so let's turn it over and do the next. We'll check our temperature and we'll move it off to the side to finish cooking. Here we are, finished. It's at 125 degrees. We'll let it sit for 10 minutes, and now we have the perfect steak that we can provide for our family and friends. With this YouTube video, I'd like to invite all of you to participate in our adventures with Enzo Seasonings. We're online, enzoseasonings.com. Please join us, and bon appetit. Thank you for watching.